شوف لي أي طريق
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first Freedom Lecture of 2015. And what a Freedom Lecture it is. I will, of course, introduce our guest of honor to you in further detail. But first of all, let me welcome you on behalf of the Freedom Lecture. My name is Kirsten van den Hul. I have been the host of the Freedom Lectures since we started. This is the third season already. The Freedom Lectures were an initiative of the Bali in partnership with Amnesty International and Democratie and Media and Vivons. And tonight's Freedom Lecture has also been made possible by the Movies That Matter Film Festival. Tonight we have a very special guest. When Meerte of the Bali called me to say, well, we have our next speaker for the Freedom Lecture and you will love it, I was like, okay, who? And she said, well, it is Madam Nawal El Saadawi. And I went through the roof, I can tell you. I was jumping. I was like, yes. Why? Well, first and foremost, because it's not often that you get to meet a living legend, a rebel, a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, and most of all, a creative writer of over 56 works, including articles, including non-fiction, including theater plays, and including a very famous novel, Woman at Point Zero. It is, of course, a great honor to have you here at our table. Now, what we will do tonight is slightly different from what you may have been used to at the Freedom Lecture. Do we have people who've been at a Freedom Lecture before? Yes, we do, but also a lot of first-timers. Welcome to all. So usually we would have a program where the Freedom Lecturer gives a speech, but this time we do it a bit differently. We'll have a Q&A later on, and if time allows, we will see if there is time for questions. But because Madam El Saadawi has a very challenging schedule, a schedule that I think would be challenging for a 16-year-old, but is even more challenging for somebody of your respectable 83. Age of 83, yes. We agreed that we will finish a bit early today, and we hope you will all understand and agree. Yeah?
But we can go a little bit more.
We can go a little bit more for them. There you go. There you go. There you go. Now, we always, when we have a Freedom Lecture, we ask local artists or creatives to introduce our guest of honor through words or through a performance or through images. Tonight we asked two very special ladies to do that. And it is also a great honor to introduce the first of those two. So what you will see is a creative introduction to Ms. Nawal El Saadawi, and also an expression of how you have inspired artists based and working in the Netherlands. So our first guest to do so is none other than writer, journalist Monique Samuel. Monique, the floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, this is a little bit inconvenient now that I'm looking towards your back. I will try to, yes, thank you very much. I'll try to move a little bit. أهلا وسهلا في هولندا وأهلا وسهلا في Amsterdam. تشرفنا. I'm very happy to also see that I think there are a lot of Egyptians in this room. Yes. Yes. أهلا مصر. شكرا. This is a great moment for me because I've never been in a place where Egypt and Holland got so close together. So this is يعني يوم حلو يوم عسل. I'm very happy and honored to give this homage to Nawal Zainab. She is saying, you're not saying, you didn't read her work enough. Because if you did, you would know that Nawal El Saadawi doesn't want to be called Nawal El Saadawi. She wants to be called Nawal Zainab, yes, after her mother. And I will tell you why. The Sir called El Saadawi that became the famous name through you on all your books and works was, in fact, according to you, not my words, a hypersexual man who had a little inferiority complex about his small organ and would therefore use that a lot.
That's my grandfather.
Yes. Maybe that's where the passion comes from. But so, he died 10 years before you were born.
Exactly.
Which is way before I ever came to be born. I'm only 25 years old, so you can imagine. I was born after you got famous, that's for sure. And so you never even saw a photograph because photographs were not yet introduced in the village where El Saadawi was born. But you would like to be called after your mother, Zainab, who I think maybe is one of your biggest love. Now, as for me, I know that I'm called after Nawal Samuel. That is my last name, and he was the great-grandfather. I also know that this man wasn't really the most emancipated of all men. According to good Egyptian custom, he kept a very close eye and a very close hand on his wife. And when my Giddo, my grandfather, decided to bring his newlywed cousin, my teta, my grandmother, to the cinema, and he thought, you know what, I will also bring my mother, because it was a movie of Abdel Halim Hafiz. You know him, right? The love of the Egyptian women in that time, the straight ones at least. Well, when he took them to his wife and his mother to the cinema, who both loved the movie for obvious reasons, and he returned home, he was beaten the crap out of him by his father. Because that he brought his wife to such a sinful place was one thing, but that he brought his mother. Ya khabar abyad. Well, okay. So maybe I should change my name. I don't know. It isn't really the man I would maybe want to be called after. But isn't it that we always originate from men and then later understand how beautiful it is to be a woman? I have been inspired by your work for many reasons. The first time I saw your book, one of your books, my mother has several ones in Dutch. Very early.
Where is your mother?
She's in the back. She's there.
Good.
They already met. The first time I read one of your books, well, when I saw one of your books, I should say, I couldn't read yet. I was 3 years old. I climbed up in the bookshelf and found this, the Veiled Eve, the Dutch copy of it. I couldn't read it. I wanted to. Somehow it had that attraction to me. When I got older, I would climb up in the bookshelves more times and always grab that book. It was on the Egyptian shelf that always caught my attention. But my mother would tell me I was too young. Do you remember that, Mom? You always told me I was too young to read it. That only grew my interest. Because if mothers tell you you're too young to read it, you know you want to be old enough to be able to. It took me many years before I finally did start reading your work. And when I did, I realized reading your books is like therapy for the soul without having to pay a very expensive psychiatrist. So it's a cheap but great hobby. Because when I read your work, I feel like somehow, although I'm so far apart of you in age and geographic location and all those other things, there is a truth revealed that really clings on to me. And there is a pain in the work, and an anger, and a hope, and a frustration, and a sadness, and everything. And I really feel this when I think about my melody, my country, Egypt, and when I think about my motherland, Holland, the Netherlands, as it is today. As I understand your work, you didn't want to become a doctor. Your dad made you to. But I'm happy that you've been a doctor, and I tell you why. Because it enabled you to go through the layers of clothes and skin and dig into the human soul and find something that is beyond, oh, she starts writing now. You see that's the writer in her. That's beyond color, gender, class, ethnicity, nationality even. They try to deprive you from your ID. I will tell you, I have 2 IDs, and that seems to be a sin in this country. I'm cherishing it. I would never want to give up one or the other. It's in me. You can deprive me from my ID. You can not deprive me from my heritage, from my heart, from my soul. And it beats in different languages and in different times and in different space. You have been arrested and imprisoned. I've been arrested, but not imprisoned. I wouldn't know how it is to be truly imprisoned. But I do know how it is to live in a cage and to be deprived of freedom by society, by family, by custom, by religion, but moreover by the bars of your own mind. I have once swallowed the key which enabled me to be free. Now that I breathe, I know how it is to climb out of that cage and walk and dance in open air. For me, your work helps me to conquer this inner deprivation of freedom, because in the end there's no bigger revolution than the revolution of the mind. There's no true freedom outside of it. And there's something else that touched me most. I was reading The Reader with your latest work, and in that is an essay of 2008 that you wrote in Atlanta, in which you write about shame and how you challenge your students to break down the shame in order to enhance creativity. Let me talk about my shame. I met this girl in 2012. Her name is Iman. She's 33 years old. She comes from Imbaba and speaks this dialect slang that I can hardly understand. I met her through some mutual friends, of which I can't say the names because I would endanger their lives immediately. Maybe this says enough to you. I met her in a alley in the Bursa of Cairo, the triumphant, in which some little people triumph today. And she was so gorgeous. She had that wild beauty of someone who lives her life like she wants to. She had that zealous eyes, you know, the real Einbelly, that flaming eyes that you should see in order to know how it looks like. She's a Muslim, a religious one, yet she tore her headscarf away and then she cut her hair. So she looks a little bit like a boy, especially for Egyptian standards. It's easy to look like a boy in Egypt. It's hard to be a man, and even harder to be a woman. And to be something in between is just disastrous. I met her, and I felt intrigued, and I want to know her. And I guess she felt the same for me, because one night she grabbed my arm, and she told me, Munira, ta'ali hana. And she took me to a bathroom, a public one. I didn't want to stay there for long, I can tell you. And she told me, do you want to be with me? I said, eh? Are you asking me if I want to be with you? She said, eh? Are you asking me if I ask you if I want to be with you? And so this conversation became a very difficult one, and the smell was unbearable. She told me, I think you want me. I told her, I think I do. She told me, in order to want me, you need to love me. I said, oh, I love you, all right. She said, no, that's not love, that is lust, that is something else. You go love me first. I said, how? Teach me. She told me, you come with me. So she went to two friends, two guys, of course, it was in the night. And she took me to a terrace in Doi. And we sat there till the morning. It took me 1 hour to be able to phrase my questions in a way she could understand. It took me 2 hours before she understood my questions and could answer them. It took me 3 hours in order for me to understand her answers. It took me 4 hours to say, you are a great woman, you are marvelous. Then it was sun. The sun came up over the Nile. It was beautiful. And the guy said, you have to go, you have to go. You can't be seen at this point of day. It's too early, it's too late for everything. Just come with us. And they drove her to one place, and then, no, they drove me off first, and then dropped her off later, because it would make a better impression for me to be dropped off first. And then people would think strange things about her, but that was kind of okay, I guess. Then the next night, I sit down with all of her friends again, and at 1:30 she told me, it's time, you can come. And she took me to a hotel at Tahrir Square, a very, very, very bad hotel. I wouldn't call it a hotel, maybe we should put a B and an R in front of it, I don't know. But anyway, she took me there, took me to the highest floor, and knocked on the door. A man came, and he said, what do you want? She said, I want a room. Now you have to understand, this hotel was dirty. The elevator shaft was full of trash all the way to the 20th floor. There were cockroaches and cats and I don't know what else. Next to Tahrir Square, but it was a mess. And they took me to the 20th floor, and the man asked for our identity cards. And he said, Muslim, Christian. Muslim, Christian. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, I've seen a lot in my life. Is she a girl? I said, do you want me to be here with a man? No. I said, so she is a girl. You can breathe again. And they brought us to a room all the way in the back, and he said, you go lock it and put something against the door, because I can't protect you. I can keep my mouth shut, but I can't protect you. We were in that room, and there was this balcony. And when I walked on the balcony, I could see Tahrir Square. And she asked me to come with her to the balcony, and she showed me the Tahrir Square, and she asked me, do you see a revolution? I said, I can't see anything. It's dark, it's night. She told me, we are the revolution. Here, at this balcony, here, at this point of night, here, as two women. And then she took me to bed. It was a very bad bed. I mean, I had rage afterwards. It was bad. But she kissed me and held me. And then, at some point, I felt she was very uncomfortable. I thought it was maybe because what we were doing. But she told me, no, it's the time for prayer. We should stop. And so the azan came, the morning prayer, and she started to sing along. And it was so beautiful. And I asked her, isn't it forbidden for a woman to sing along with the azan? She told me, is it forbidden for a woman to praise her God? Is it forbidden for a woman to pray to God? And she prayed. And she asked me to join her in prayer. I want to tell you something, Nawal. This last sentence. I want to tell you something. You are right. When you break down the boundaries of shame and the walls of shame, you're not embarrassed. All you keep is your pride. Thank you for teaching me that.
Thank you very much, Monique Samuel. Ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Now, our initial idea was to now give the floor to you and then have our next performance later. But you said, no, let's watch all performances at once and then talk. So that is what we do, of course. I go straight into announcing our next guest, who we also asked to reflect on tonight's topic and on you, and to show her creative process. And it's also a great pleasure for me to introduce our next guest. She's an actress. She's a writer. She's also an activist, and her name is Nazmiye Oral. And she's currently working on a theater/photo project called No Longer Without You, which deals with a generation of women and men that want to be in charge of their own lives and of their own sexualities, but refuse to estrange themselves from their communities. And if you want to see the whole performance, I would like to encourage you to go check out the Holland Festival, because that is where this performance will premiere this June. Ladies and gentlemen, please give her a warm welcome, the one and only Nazmiye Oral.
It is such a great honor to stand here in front of you. Nawal Zainab, shall I call you like that? Yes, okay, I will. First of all, the same thing that goes to us is I don't also like to be called an activist. Because if it's something I do while living, breathing, if it's my survival, then it's not a job, it's not a title, it's who I am. Huh? Yes. It's especially an honor because it's a very nice reunion for me and for my colleagues from Zina, who are also here in the audience. Because exactly 10 years ago, it was 20 March, 10 years ago, in this room, we collaborated in our first performance with Zina. It was called The Female Mosque. We did here The Female Mosque. It was Zina's first performance in which we stated our own rules, created our own sacred space, not so much for prayer, but a space in which all could be one, equal, free. Men and women, people of all backgrounds. So we from Zina had created this space, but one especially needs a mental, emotional, and a spiritual space in order to arrive into an idea. And that's, to arrive into wonder, into intelligence, into growth. And that space 10 years ago was provided by your brilliance that evening. So thank you. To be born is to be received. But who receives a strong woman who doesn't want to bow down to any rules except her own? I don't believe in fighting against something, because that always made me feel weak. What has made me free is overcoming my shyness of intimacy. Fighting is beneath my dignity. It's a very narrow space to live in. As an artist, a writer, an actress, as a woman brought up in an oppressive environment, longing for freedom, my survival has created my work. I was brought up with Turkish movies in which women always had to sacrifice. Even if they would be raped, they would have to throw themselves off a cliff in order to gain some respect. Respect for the fact that they had so kindly and submissively gotten rid of themselves when they were stained. Only then they could become a heroine. And my mother would weep for them, weep in admiration of their purity. This behind me, this is my mother, holding me in her arms. My mother is a woman that used to check up on my virginity until I was 14, until I was strong enough to say no. My mother is a woman that tried to marry me off when I was 18, against my will, as an act of love. I'm not interested in anecdotes, in stories. I'm interested in the process. Because in the process lies unity. In that space of desperation, of fear, of growth, we are all equal. Men and women, fathers and daughters, mothers and sons. I am relating to you as an artist. It was just last year when a much younger, dear friend of mine, Chidem, who is also in the audience, sparked the fire in my heart that led to this picture. She came to me because she was then an aspiring photographer. She wanted to leave home. She wanted to live on her own. She wanted to pursue a career. Her parents not only wanted her to stay, but acted as if she was killing them with her desire for freedom. Because of her pain, and as a friend, I was teaching her a simple technique. It's called EFT, by the way, Emotional Freedom Technique, very helpful. In order to ease her pain. And that's when it hit me. Not mentally, but right in the heart. I could see where she was, that space. On one hand, this tremendous love for her parents, and on the other hand, this life that was entrusted to her life to be lived, and the choice she was supposed to make, but couldn't. I realized I had been in that exact same space 20 years ago. I realized I had to bury my feelings then in order to survive. I again saw myself standing in front of my mother, 21 years old, my mother pushing me aside, never speaking to each other, but then she looked me in the eye and she asked me, "What do you want?" And I dared to say, "I want to live on my own. I want to be my own woman. I want to study." My mother's answer was, "Your father and I have decided, if you don't do as we tell you, we both will commit suicide." Well, I have a friend, I told him this. He's also Turkish well-known writer. And he laughed. He said, "Well, my mother every 2 days tells me she's going to commit suicide." Well, my mother is a different woman, a woman of dignity. If she says something like that, she truly means it. So up until that moment, on the outside, I was very courageous, looking courageous, but on the inside, I was dying. But when my mother, with that remark, hit me below the belt, something blossomed inside me. And I thought, no, I won't let you make me a stranger. I am your blood. It is my birthright. I am not giving up my space in this family or this community. Either I go away, I won't run away. It's beneath my dignity. I will go away and you will not know what happened to me, whether I've been a hooker, because that's what you're afraid of, whether I have something to eat, where I am, or you bring me yourself. It is up to you. Your help is my birthright. So my parents chose the last one. They brought me themselves. And when I thought of this, and Chidam sitting in front of me, I had to think of all these people I know right now. Lawyers, artists, writers, successful people, but withholding intimacy with their very, very dear ones, their families, leading double lives, not daring to say to their parents, as I didn't dare to say, I'm sorry, I just don't believe, you know. I'm sorry, this is who I am. The utter loneliness of it all struck me. That's when I got back to my mother, 20 years later, together with Chidam. I asked her, Mom, will you be with me? Will you speak with me about our past that we never spoke about? Not here in the living room, but in front of an audience. In front of all these people, will you do that for me? Will you participate in a project? No longer without you, because then I knew I want to do this as a project. So here she is, holding me in her arms, in agony that my breast is showing, but she is there. She is still there, participating. And she will be there when we both will perform during Holland Festival in June. We're not alone. I'm standing here in front of you. I will come to that, why and how you have inspired me. We are not alone. I'm here with my friend Meral, whose father will also participate. Chidam is there with us, Sawal, Melih, all their parents and their family. Chidam is there with her camera, not only for us, but also to capture in front of the camera a brave part of the community who dared to commit this act of radical intimacy together with their loved ones. You know, with someone they love but don't necessarily agree with. Because no longer without you doesn't demand a change of heart, a change of thinking. Refusing to give up ourselves and our families, and refusing to commit social suicide when we presumably don't belong because we are gay, atheists, or just free souls. That's what it's all about. A great deal of your work, Nawal, speaks of loneliness. Sometimes that scares me. As a woman who wants to have a lover. Because sometimes I'm scared and I wonder whether it's true that being a great woman means being lonely. A great deal of your work also speaks of unity, of equality, but unity, inside and out, of heart, body, mind, and soul. And in that sense, I view the world as one big community, and I find myself taken care of by you, who has led the way for me, for all of us, with so much grace, so much hardship. For all our mothers, our daughters, sisters, for all our fathers, sons, and brothers, no longer without you. I refuse to fight for my freedom, accept loneliness as the price I have to pay for my voice, for taking ownership of my honor, no longer without you. I want to make this pain unfertile so that new generations will be spared of this inheritance of us, so that our children and our children's children can be who they are, but no longer without us.
Nazmiye Oral, thank you so much. You see what you created, Nawal. You see what you created, radical intimacy and a desire for freedom and for dignity, karama, freedom from shame, freedom from family, from fear, for thoughts of others. Let's start at the beginning. Yes. When we met, we found out that actually we have something in common. beside the color of our hair, which is we both grew up in the countryside, in a small village. Yours was called Kafr Tahla. Mine was called Batman. And I remember in that village there was one moment in my life that I realized I'm a girl, and that means different. That means not only different, but less in some people's eyes. I remember a football game. We were always playing football on this field, and guys said to me that I couldn't play football with them because I was a girl. And when they said it, it looked like, because you're a girl. And I was like, why? Did you have a moment, like a moment where it hit you, I am being treated different because I'm a girl? What was that moment in your life?
Yes. When I was 7 years, oh my God, there is an echo here. Yes. Is it better like that? Yes. Yes. I was born a girl, but I didn't know I am a girl. I didn't know. I had a brother who was 1 year older than me, only 1 year. And then, when I was born, I remember now, because I forgot. You know, children forget what happened to them. We call it childhood amnesia. Childhood amnesia. So usually they forget the painful moments in their life and the shameful moments in their life. And this diminishes their creativity. Shame, fear, and anger. So when I trained my memory, because creativity is very much related to the memory. And because we forget, when we have painful childhood, we forget. And being a girl in a poor family, in the village, in Egypt, and we were a colony of the British. Mind you, your village was a colony, you were a colony, you were not colonized. Yeah. I must bring the dimension of colonialism, because to have the oppression from external powers, foreign powers, in addition to the oppression of powers inside the family, inside the country, we have to bring that. And children feel the pain and the oppression the moment they are born, even when they are in the womb. There are many studies now that prove that the fetus in the womb is affected by the pain and anger of the mother, or by the music, when the mother loved music. So when I was born, I felt the world does not want me. They don't want me, you know, the family. They don't want me. They didn't smile. I wrote that in my autobiography. They didn't smile. They were not happy. And even the midwife, she left me in the tusht. What do you say that in Egypt? The tusht.
Crib or cradle?
Yes, where they put the water and the baby is washed. And she almost drowned me. She left me there so that she will say, well, that's what God killed her, you know, that she died by the will of God. And she left me to drown. But I was struggling up to save my life. So, do you remember such things in your family?
I don't.
So there is some difference.
There is, absolutely. But what was the time where you realized it was your gender or your sex that made you different?
It's all the time, but it came gradual. It's a gradual process. I cannot say there was a sharp moment. It is a gradual process of awareness. Because what happens? We are born creative, intelligent, and our senses is fine. But then we become dull. We become stupid by education, by religion. We lose our creativity. So when I was a very little child, I was very much intelligent and very much refusing. I wrote a letter to God, the same you wrote a letter to Reagan. I was refusing I was refusing God. I felt the injustice of God when I was a little girl. But when I went to school, etc., I started to be very religious and to forget common sense. So I cannot really pick a moment.
What was in your letter to God? What did you write about?
What did you write in your letter to Reagan?
I wrote...
She wrote a letter to Reagan.
I did. I wrote him at a time where I was very scared for a nuclear attack. So I told him to arrange peace and to stop this talk of war. And I was actually very angry at him for all this talk about war and nuclear power.
Oh, yes.
And I never got a reply. How about you?
Exactly. God never replied to me. Even I didn't know his address.
You say his.
I didn't know. Did you know the address of Reagan?
No, I think I probably asked my mother. I will ask her tonight what happened to that letter. Yeah.
You see, this very resemblance between Reagan and God is very important.
And scary at the same time.
Yeah, fear.
Yeah.
She was afraid of Reagan. He was head of the very big country, America. Big colonial, imperialist, capitalist country. Reagan, Ronald Reagan. And God to children also is more than Reagan. So I think that this fear, you were afraid.
Yeah.
I was afraid of God.
Yeah.
All of us are, even in the language, in English language, they say God-fearing person. Yeah. And they think this is positive. To me, it is negative. It is very negative. How can you fear somebody and then love him? Impossible. So you cannot love God and fear him. And this is one of the contradictions in religion.
Yeah. There was a beautiful interview with you in Trouw today, Dutch daily newspaper Trouw. If you haven't read it yet, please go read it. It's very beautiful. Trouw. Trouw is the name of the newspaper. Yes,
yeah.
yes. And it was an interview with you today, and you said something that I thought was so beautiful. You said, your mind is your God.
My goddess.
Exactly, your
yes.
goddess. Your goddess.
Yes.
Yeah. So when was the time in your life where that change came to be? From being afraid to saying this, my mind is my goddess. What was the change?
Yes, many events. Many events happened. Acute, chronic, happened in my childhood, in my adolescence. And also I was lucky to have my mother and my grandmother, the peasant grandmother, and my mother, and my father, number 3. And my grandmother was a great woman. She was illiterate. I remember I was 5 years of age, and she used to take me by the hand when she was rebelling against the mayor, because the mayor in the village was robbing her. She was a village woman producing cotton, like all villages in Egypt. And then the mayor, at the end of the year, collect the cotton by law from them. If any peasant does not give up the cotton to the mayor, he is put in prison. So my grandmother and her children, she had 6 daughters and 1 son, my father, she was working day and night, and then the mayor take the cotton and send it by train to the king. The king take his share, little share, and then the big share go to England, to Manchester. So my grandmother and the other women and in the village, they knew that. So she went with the village people behind her, without a shoe. They used to go without shoes. Very poor woman. She ate cheese and salt. They ate salt and bread. Egyptians, peasants in the villages, because of colonialism and because of King Farouk exploitation and dictatorship, and because of the mayor, the peasants, like my grandmother, who were working day and night, their food was bread and salt and pickles and pickles. So she went to the mayor and told him, the mayor was sitting like that with the Quran in his hand. Quran was written in gold. The holy books are written in gold, you know? And the mosques were built in gold, and the churches, from where the gold comes, you know? The governments, the rulers, because the governments are interested in God. They use God to justify injustices. So the mayor was sitting in his high chair with his gold clothes and the Quran in gold, written in gold letters. And my grandmother was standing in front of him without shoes, with the villagers behind her. And she told him, you mayor, you are taking our food, you are taking our sweat and sending it to the king. And you don't know God. God will punish you. Because you are taking our sweat and you are very unfair. So the mayor despised her and told her, you poor, ignorant, illiterate woman, you speak about God. Do you know God? How can you know God without reading the Quran? So my grandmother, that's the moment that illuminated me. It was my first lesson in philosophy and in religion. So my grandmother told him, yes, I am illiterate, but who told you that God is a book? Who told you that God comes out of the printing machine? I know God because God, I'll say it in Arabic. That's what my grandmother said. قالت ربنا هو العدل الفو بالعقل. You can translate. Because God is justice, and we know him by our mind. We know him naturally by our mind. Mm-hmm. So this was a very important lesson in my life. You agree?
Yeah, very much so. I think we all agree, don't we?
Okay.
Now, you have quite a unique perspective on the historical context and development, not only of your country, but of the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, you grew up in the countryside during monarchy, you said the days of King Farouk, and then you witnessed the end of colonial rule when you were studying in the University of Pisa.
The end of colonial rule? It never ended.
The British. Okay,
good
point, good point.
I am against post-colonial. I am against the word post-colonial.
You're saying
it's
neo-colonial.
Wrong. Neo-colonial.
Right. Mm-hmm. Let's come to that later.
Yes,
let's come to that. So let me be precise. You witnessed the end of British presence in Egypt when you were studying. Then you saw well, at least a couple of dictatorial rulers rule your country. Then you saw the revolution, or revolutions. Yes, exactly, plural. You saw the ousting of the Muslim Brotherhood, the Morsi. What has all of these developments, what have all of these developments meant for women in particular? What is the progress you see?
I do not separate women from men. You know, I am very much, I don't divide people by their genital organs. I divide people by their mind. I divide people by how you think and what you think, how you think. So, in fact, revolutions are done by men and women. I have seen many revolutions in my life. The Egyptians revolted against King, revolted against Nasser, revolted against Sadat, revolted against Mubarak, revolted against Tantawi, the army leader whom Mubarak appointed, and then revolted against Morsi, and now they are critical even of the existing government. So the Egyptian people, like the Dutch people, like all people, they cannot tolerate injustice, and they revolt. Men and women, the same. And men and women should know that our struggle is one. Because there are many, many women who are very patriarchal, more patriarchal than men. Even rulers. Angela Merkel, you see Angela Merkel in Germany. Condoleezza Rice, Hillary Clinton, Margaret Thatcher. Women who are fierce patriarch, and they oppress women. I just came from London here to The Hague. I stayed 2 weeks in London before I came. And British women, they remember Thatcher, and they said, she took our rights as women, and she was a woman. But your question is, of course, all these revolutions were very positive in relation to women and men, and especially women. Why? Because women are oppressed by the political system, the global and the local. They are oppressed by the economic system, capitalism. They are oppressed by all religions. So whenever you have a revolution, so the revolution is against external exploitation, colonialism, against local dictatorship, against capitalism and class oppression, against patriarchal and male oppression, against divine oppression. So any revolution that happens affects women positively.
So you are seeing a line up from...
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
I think
you are an optimist?
I am optimist by nature because I feel that hope gives me a lot of power. In fact, in all my experiences in life, when I lose hope, I am weak. I am finished. And all the regimes wanted me to despair. I am against two things, despair and regret. I don't regret and I don't despair. So I am optimistic by nature and I am hopeful. Of course, there is a progress. But you know, history go in zigzag line. History does not go in straight line there. History goes forward, but in a zigzag line. 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. 2 steps forward, so the net result, we go forward. Yeah. Now in Egypt, the January Revolution is aborted. Yeah. Aborted. And some of the young, revolutionary young men and women are in prison. And I am writing against that. I'm very critical of the existing government now. And we should be like that. We should have this critical mind to criticize our government and our family and our society, not to criticize other governments and then we are silent in front of our governments. So there are many negative aspects after the revolution, and there are many positive aspects, but we are going forward.
In the end, What I don't know if anyone of you have read memoirs from the women's wing. Are there any people who read memoirs from? Yes, I see some people nodding. If you haven't, you should really read it. Memoirs from the women's wing. It was written in 3 months when you were in prison. Written, I should add, on toilet paper with a smuggled eyebrow pencil.
Yes.
Because, tell us about it. How did that happen?
She provokes me to speak about, because also one of the rich moments in my life and rich time, 3 months in prison. I advise you, all of you, to go to prison. Yes, you miss a lot. But because in prison, you see the other face of the regime. You cannot know the regime unless you see the dark side and the light. It's like the dark side of the moon, but you see a lot. When I was in prison, in fact, we, the political prisoners, we were served because there is a class dimension in prison, exactly, because prison is a small...
It's a microcosmos.
Yes, exactly, microcosm of the outer side of society. So we were served. Our neighbors were the cell of the prostitutes. They were our neighbors, so the prostitutes next to the political prisoners. And a prostitute used to come and serve us, bring us bread, etc. And also the women killers, the women who killed their husbands, or they were next to us. So I was very friendly. I discovered friends among the prostitutes and among the killers more than my political colleagues. Can you imagine? Because in politics there is a lot of hypocrisy. You can go to prison and you are a hypocrite. You can go to prison, it doesn't mean anything. But when you live with prostitutes and listen to their stories, when you live with women who killed their husbands and you listen to them, you feel small like that. I felt I am small. My struggle is nothing related to them. So I have to write in prison because writing is like breathing to me. If I don't write, I suffocate, I die. And every day, the jailer, they took from us everything. They took from us even the mirror, a little mirror like that. I didn't see my face for 3 months because they took a little mirror. They call a sharp because they think we will kill ourselves by some. They took everything sharp, and they took the pen and paper and everything. So I was longing for a paper and pen in the cell to write. But the jailer comes every day and he tells me, if I find paper and pen in your cell, they search the cell. If we find a paper and pen in your cell, it's more dangerous than if we find a gun. Okay? You see the power of paper and pen. So I decided to get a paper and pen that evening. And I did. So I told the prostitute, my friend, Zuba, my friend, I told her, come here. She brought our bread. I told her, I need paper and pen. She said, okay, do you need toilet paper? Toilet paper. I said, yes, it can do any paper, because I need to write. So she brought me a roll of toilet paper and her eyebrow pen. So for 3 months, I was writing my memoirs on this toilet after I finished a roll to bring me another roll. And she saved my life by writing. Because if I didn't write for 3 months in prison, I will be mad. I think I will be mad. Yeah.
Yeah, what a story. But you said, you know, your hardship was nothing compared to what some of the women went through, but you also went through a lot. I mean, people were threatening you, you received death threats.
Yes, but this nothing. If you really hear the stories of prostitutes, at least I found my bread. At least I was a medical doctor. At least I was a writer. At least I had a dignity. At least I was able to divorce 3 husbands. At least. No, yes. Of course, I've seen death. I've seen death. My name was on the death list for years. But I had some support. But there are women with no support whatsoever. Yeah. And they have to sell their bodies. And it's her father who made her a prostitute. At least my father sent me to the medical college. But her father sent her to sell her body so that he will exploit his daughter to have money. Oh, no, if you go, I learned a lot from them. And I wrote about, and killers. You know, there are women who are, you know, the best women I met in my life were the women who killed. The best women, they are honorable. They are the most honorable women because they kill defending the dignity of their children. I think I wrote in my autobiography about the mother who, she was a poor peasant who came back home and she found her husband raping her daughter, the father raping the daughter. So with the how, she had the how, she killed her husband, the father of the daughter was a child, 10 or something. You
wrote 9.
Yes, and she killed him and cut him to pieces and put him in a plastic bag and throw him in the Nile. And she was laughing. And she said, and the jailer came and told her, "You killer, you do not regret? You don't have shame?" She said, "No, I am not shameful. And if I am set free, I will kill him again." I will kill him again, yeah.
I would like to, because time is moving fast.
And we need questions.
And we need questions, but I have one last for you.
Yes.
If we look at the world around us now, there are also lots of reasons not to be so optimistic. Some people see a very a gloomy prospect. There's wars, there is fighting, death. Never has the world seen more refugees than now.
Immigrants.
Never been more refugees at the same time in different places of the world. There's fighting going on still in Sudan, in Syria, but it's just endless. Daesh, ISIS.
And not ISIS, please.
Okay.
We don't call it ISIS. No, don't say it, because ISIS was our great-grandmother, goddess of wisdom and knowledge in Egypt. ISIS, you know her. So this IS, Islamic State, you call it IS, not ISIS.
IS.
Or Daesh.
Or Daesh. Let's bear that in mind.
Yes.
Daesh. You say you're still an optimist when you look to the future. Can you talk a little bit about where your optimism originates from?
Yes, optimism comes from knowledge, and knowledge is power. We have to know why we have Daesh, because I think many people here in Holland, they don't know why we have Daesh, why we had Al Qaeda, why we had Osama bin Laden, why we had the Muslim Brothers, why we have Boko Haram in Nigeria. Why this? You know, so all this phenomena of religious fundamentalism, whether Islamic, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, it's a universal phenomenon. It's a postmodern phenomenon. Neocolonialism and religious fundamentalism is two faces of the same coin. And Daesh, you know, and to make it short, usually I say bin Laden and George Bush were twins. They worked together and they killed each other, etc. The son killed the father. So all oppressive regimes, they need some tool, some servant to work for them, because they don't want to make their hand dirty. You know, they are the masters. It's like the father who is the patriarch and he uses his wife to beat the daughter, you see? So the US is powerful and they want their hands clean. So they hire Islamic fundamentalist group, bin Laden, Daesh, Boko Haram. They hire them, they give them weapons, and they brainwash the young people, and they set them to kill us and to divide us by religion, divide and rule. So knowledge is power. You need to know why we have this phenomenon. Because many people in London, I came from London, Many people, British professors of politics, they don't know the link between the global powers and the local powers, the link between postmodern politics and religious fundamentalism. When I know that, I have hope, because one step to conquer your enemy, to know your enemy, to know, knowledge is power. I have hope because I educate myself all the time. We need nobody, I didn't know that in books, but you have to use your common sense. Usually I say creativity is common sense. And you have to ask yourself why. Why we have these groups, Daesh? Why? Why they do that? To whom interest? Then you discover. And that's why people who think are killed. That's why they put thinkers and writers on the death list, because they, all the time, they develop knowledge and they give knowledge, and they don't want that. Mm-hmm. So hope is related to knowledge.
And you're hopeful because you see knowledge being spread. You cannot stop it, you say.
I cannot stop it, no.
Nobody can.
No way back. Where to go? Nothing. You have to go on. You have to go on until you face what we are afraid of. How many minutes we have?
Well, it's almost time to go to the questions,
okay,
I would say. It's now 1:15 almost.
Okay, let's wait for the question. Maybe I'll answer. Let's have the question
Let's
first.
have the questions.
Yes.
Yalla bina, yalla
Yalla
bina.
bina.
Oh yes, there's a very strong, this will take some time, but I will collect the questions, yes, one by one. There you go.
You know, like you asked the question.
Can you come here? Come here. Okay. Come here, and don't speak in the mic.
I'm afraid she has to, because
Ah,
otherwise the people
okay,
in the back
okay.
cannot hear.
I'm so glad, to meet you in person. Yeah, I read you when I was.
What's your name?
Taghreed Al-Khudari. I'm Palestinian actually.
أهلاً وسهلاً.
Living in Amsterdam.
أهلاً وسهلاً.
No, you said about why Daesh. It's becoming like reality on the ground. In the Middle East and
not Middle East,
but
please.
you did not
No,
mention,
not Middle East.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Okay. But yeah, let me finish and
No.
then you
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Before I forget,
Yeah.
I'll give you all time.
Okay.
We are here till the morning. The minute I hear Middle East, I become upset. Mm-hmm. Because this is a colonial language.
What should
It's like third world, like post-colonial. Middle East. What? Middle to who? You have to ask yourself. We
So
learn.
what is the term to
I'll
be
tell
used?
you. Just wait.
Yeah.
Patience. Knowledge come from you ask yourself why. Who called us? Why we are called Middle East? We were named, and we have to study history. Mm-hmm. We were named Middle East because we were a British colony. So Egypt was Middle East relative to London. And India was called Far East relative to London because India was also a colony. So now, when I go to London, I say I go to the Middle West. And people laugh. When I go to the United States, I say I'm going to the Far West. And people even laugh. But when she say Middle East, nobody laughs. You see? That's colonialism. That's colonial language that we need to decolonize the language. Go on. So you go on now.
Can I say the Arab word?
No, you can say North Africa.
Oh,
West Asia. West Asia, North
wow.
Africa.
It takes more time, no?
No, North Africa. You are speaking about what country? You are speaking about what country?
You said why Daesh and all of that, but you did not mention, the wrong policies. I asked for one day, Kissinger one day, why the Middle East, the Arab world, like whatever.
Oh, you can say the Arab world.
Has turned into extremism. What are the reasons? And he said it's due to
who said who?
Kissinger
What
himself.
did he say?
He said it's because of our neglect and wrong policies in the region. So
He said,
he admitted that
Kissinger,
to me. Yeah.
Kissinger said neglect.
And wrong policies.
Neglect of what?
Neglect of certain issues.
What? Like what?
Like, as you mentioned, there are many, like, of course, the Palestinian cause, for example, you know, like supporting regimes
Kissinger.
like Saudi. I know, but not on, it wasn't on TV. It was off the record.
But he... just,
wrong policies.
And you are Palestinian.
Yeah.
Kissinger said that they neglected. Who neglected?
Neglected, you know, to resolve issues, the problems
They
on the
are
ground.
the problem.
I know.
They are the source.
But
Look, Kissinger, he represented American imperialism.
yeah.
And they were the cause of the problem. And then he comes and says, we neglected.
He's admitting
Admitting
somehow.
what? He is brainwashing
That
us.
he is, he
is deceiving us.
Okay.
We have to be... Now, I
was
have
my
to
question.
be a little bit... No,
I
I cannot hear
Yeah.
something that is against common sense.
Yeah.
How can Kissinger, who ruined Egypt by his politics, they do that all the time.
Yeah.
They play with our mind. They play with and he say that they neglected. And what else they said? Tell me.
It was off the record. I cannot share too much.
Say neglected. We neglected what?
Yeah, you can use that as a quote and quote me. Yeah. Neglect.
Tell me, I want to learn from that.
Yeah. But you answered him. Now let's go back to Egypt, because
Okay.
it's really
Okay.
It's a very sad situation on the ground.
Why sad?
It
Why?
is.
Why?
It is.
I mean, Palestine is not sad.
It's. I don't want to say whatever sad. But we're so used to the
Palestine
Palestinian.
is more sad.
Yeah.
At least Palestine.
But I want to talk about Egypt.
No. But
Despite
first
the
of
fact
all,
that I'm a Palestinian, you know.
No. Well, you know, she's escaping from Palestine
No, I'm not
to Egypt.
escaping. I'm not escaping at all.
No.
But I don't know if I
Palestine.
have the time for
Palestine,
this. You know? I mean,
Palestine is invaded by Israel. There is no Palestine.
it's a military
There is
occupation,
no
definitely.
Palestinian state.
Yeah. I mean,
Netanyahu, just saying yesterday, he's saying,
Of course.
on my body, there will be no Palestinian state.
Yeah.
And there will be
Yeah.
no Palestinian state if this system continue. You know, so the tragedy of Palestine is great. In Egypt, of course, we are colonized up till now. We are not independent. We are colonized by the Americans so long. And I am against American aid. I am against American aid. I said that we should feed ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't agree. Usually I say a woman that does not feed herself, like a country that does not feed herself.
Yeah.
Independence of the
I
woman
agree.
and
I
independence
agree.
of the country.
I agree with that.
Yes, so
I agree. Yeah.
So we the tragedy
So
is great.
this is what happened to
But
Egyptians
Palestine-
when a Palestinian talking about Egypt. They
But
never
Palestine-
Ladies,
So can I ask my question?
You already did, didn't you?
No.
What's the question?
Egypt.
What about Egypt?
Egypt. Many people say that you are in support of Sisi. Is that true?
Yes.
How?
Yes. What's that?
I'm not against. I'm asking a question and I would
am
like
happy.
an answer.
Now I want to tell you something.
Now we're talking.
People want me to be against the Egyptian army. You see, that's very important. Here, people in the West, they think that our revolution is a military coup. It's not a revolution. And you believe in that?
I'm listening.
No, what's your belief?
I would like to listen to
No, but you must have an opinion.
But let's listen to
You must have an opinion.
Of course I have.
So what's your opinion? Is it a coup? What happened in Egypt is a revolution, a real revolution. In January, 30 million were in the streets. and we got rid of Mubarak only, the head of the system, but the body of the system still there. After that, the military brought Tantawi, the head of the Egyptian army, who was appointed by Mubarak. They collaborated with Mubarak, with the Americans, and the European Union, and Israel, to bring the Muslim Brothers to Egypt. And the Muslim Brothers won the election. It was not election. We don't have democracy. There is no democratic election, even in the United States. But this is something else. So they brought Morsi and the Muslim Brothers to Egypt. And they were about to ruin Egypt. So 40 millions went in the streets in June 2013, 2 years after the January. And the army, Sisi was reluctant to interfere because the army received a lot of aid from America. So the army did not know what to do. But the 40 million compelled Sisi and the army to come and to dismiss, to get rid of Morsi. So I should support our army that defended our revolution. And now the strategy of the US is to break the Egyptian army. The Egyptian army is the only army in the region that is not yet broken. They broke the Iraqi army. You know, the Americans, they invaded Iraq, and the first step they did, they broke the Iraqi army. They broke the Syrian army. They broke the Libyan army, and they want to break the Egyptian army. But they will never do it. On our bodies, on our bodies. We have... And, yes.
Next
Okay.
question.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Nawal, I would like to
Come.
introduce you to Mariam. And Mariam has a very personal story to share.
You are
وسهلا
from what
فيك.
country? What's your name?
المغرب اسمي من مريم.
من المغرب.
من المغرب.
أيوة.
Usually but my mom forced me to come here and tell you بتسلم عليك.
الله يسلمك. كيف المغرب ولا هنا؟
هنا. اسمها خديجة. I had to tell you that as well.
خديجة.
And my mother was illiterate. She taught herself how to read, and she was illiterate and explained to me imperialism through you. And she wanted to thank you for that she could teach her daughters.
Thank you very much.
بتسلم عليك.
الله يسلمك.
And she's kind of met you now, so she will be very happy. And I'm going to leave now.
Applause for Mariam. And for Mariam's mom, what's your mother's name was Khadija? Okay, well, please tell her we all applaud her. Khadija. Yalla Khadija. We have time because we promised you that we would finish
What's the
at...
time now?
It's now 25.
Okay.
9:25.
So we still have 10 minutes, 5 minutes?
5 minutes,
5
you
minutes.
said. So we have, I would say, time for one question. So I'm going to go to you because you raised your hand from the very beginning. If you could please join me. What's your name?
Gasha.
Gasha. The floor is yours. Ask your question.
Hi.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You are from what country?
I'm from Kurdistan, south of Kurdistan, Iraq.
Iraq.
Yes.
Iraq. And
Yes.
your name is what?
Gasha.
Yesha.
Gasha.
Gesha.
It's a very difficult name, I know. First of all, welcome in Holland. Thank you.
Yes.
I read a lot of books of you, and it really changed my life. So thank you for that. You talked yet about democracy, and even in your books, I read a lot of them. I think I read every book of you, but I'm not sure. But you talked about democracy, about religion, and about that stuff. But sometimes I think, what do you think? Is there somewhere in the world democracy?
Something in the world that
Yes, democracy.
I haven't seen. Have you seen it?
No.
No.
So,
No, I haven't seen it.
so what do you think? What can we do? In Europe, I think it's here different. And in the Arabic world, and in Africa it's different. So what can we do to have democracy? And does it have a link with religion? Because I think religion is the reason that that brought us back of the history. So when I go back to Kirkuk or Erbil, it's Kurdistan in north of Iraq, I see that people, it's just about religion. If you say one thing about religion in that area, you really are like die. They kill you, or they say you went to Europe, so you are thinking now different, and they brainwashed you. But what do you think? How can we do that or change that?
Very, very good question. Thank you very much. And I will end by that. I will give myself 4 minutes. Do we have 4 minutes?
Yes, we do. We have exactly 4 minutes.
I'll talk 4 minutes continuously, nobody to interrupt me. Nobody. Yes. If anybody speak against religion, against God, she or he is killed in any country. Killed physically or morally or literally or intellectually or anything, even in the United States. I lived in the United States more than 20 years, exile, teaching creativity and dissidence. And it's a very Christian fundamentalist country. And the Christian coalition, the Jewish Christian group, is powerful. And Obama was elected by them. That's why Obama is against the so-called democracy. Religion is not democratic. I spent 10 years studying the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran. And I went to India. I studied Hinduism. I read the Gita. I was very much interested in religion because I am oppressed by religion as a woman.
Me too.
Yes, we are all oppressed by Christianity and Judaism. And since Eve became the sinner, since knowledge became a sin, how can knowledge be a sin? Knowledge is power. But Eve was condemned because she ate from the tree of knowledge. This is the first contradiction and dictatorship in religion. And also, God is an example for human beings to be dictators. Because God in all religions say, if you don't believe in me, I burn you in hellfire. Right? God in all religions said, if you do not believe in me, I burn you in hellfire.
But
this is
more women in the fire.
Yes, this is dictatorship. So people kill anybody who criticizes God. My name was on this list because I said so. How can God burn me? Because I say to him, why? Because I wrote a letter to him when I was a child. I told him, why you prefer my brother? Because he's a boy. And then people told me, God will burn you in hellfire. But my mother liberated me. And she told me there is no hellfire. You see? So we need, in order to have democracy, because religions are not democratic. Religions teach dictatorship and capitalism, class oppression. Capitalism teaches dictatorship. The free market is dictatorship. The whole conception of democracy in a capitalist, patriarchal, religious world is lying. There are a lot of lies in the world, and we have to understand that. And what I say, what I write in Egypt now, you see, after we got rid of the Muslim brothers, that children should not be taught religion. We all inherited our religion. I became a Muslim because my father was a Muslim. You became Christian because your father was a Christian. So what? So what? We inherited religion. And then we kill each other because we are different and we have different prophets or divine powers or anything. So children, the educational system, and this is my last word, all educational systems should be changed. and there should be no religious studies. We should study principles of justice, freedom, equality, love, friendship, and all that. Not religion, because many people say religion teaches morality. No, there is no morality in religion. There is double morality. Morality for women and morality for men. Honor for the name of the father, no honor for the name of the mother. So there is double standard in religion, in religious teaching. So we have to liberate our children. We have to liberate the mind of our children so that they use their common sense and try to understand the world. But religious teaching and the educational systems in the world, they kill creativity and they kill the ability of children to see paradoxes in life, to see contradictions in religion, etc. Yes, all that. So, the 4 minutes finished?
I think so.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you.
Nawal, Zainab, Nawal Zainab. شكرا لك، شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you very much.
I would like, as Nawal will leave the space or tries to, I would like to invite you all to our next Freedom Lecture in May. Stay tuned on the website. And let's also give a round of applause for our other speakers tonight, Monique Samuel and Nazmiye Oral. Thank you all for coming. See you soon. Stay free.
يا بلدي طول الطريق ببلع تراب كريم يا بلدي طول الطريق ببلع تراب كريم ويوم عطشي اتسقى يوم عطشي اتسقى ونسمى في الأبريق ونسمى في الأبريق علمني كتر البكاء علمني كتر البكاء اضحك في عز الضيق أضحك في عز الدين وأتعلم التريقة أتعلم التريقة الدنيا والمخاليق الدنيا والمخاليق